Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0. Welcome back to the channel. Enjoy the fanfic. And let's begin. Part 3. Naruto's head felt dizzy. It hurt everywhere and he didn't know where the hell he was. Memories flashed through his mind. Isn't this beautiful? He whispered into Nanao's ear. They were sitting on the roof of 3rd Squad Barrack, under the stars. It is. Nanao whispered, leaning into his shoulder. Naruto wrapped his arm around her more tighter. Just you and me, for once. And with that, she had killed the mood. And what was that supposed to mean? He asked with a resented voice while taking his arm away. Nothing. Nothing at all. Nanao looked away angrily. Idiot. Excuse me. Naruto jumped up. Who are you calling? Idiot. You the idiot who won't even realize when someone is flirting with you. What are you talking about? He asked, confused. You're the one who doesn't know how to flirt. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about your best friend. Nanao yelled. Not this again. He yelled, frustrated. What's your problem with Ran-chan, seriously? You just don't get it. Nanao yelled. When it's so damn obvious what I mean. The way she throws herself at you. The way she talks to you. The way she looks at you. Everything's so damn obvious, but you just don't get it. What are you talking about? You want me to stop training with her? Spending time with her? No. Those things are not a problem. The problem is that every time you take me out, no matter where, she somehow manages to find us and you will ignore me for the rest of the evening. You're exaggerating. Naruto waved his hand. When has that ever happened? Last month when you took me to that festival. It was a coincidence. And before that, when you took me to that restaurant. She had ordered takeaway. When we're in your garden on a picnic. She had something to tell me. Nanao stood there silently. And you always defend her. She's my best friend. Naruto answered. She has always been there for me. And if we're here to throw rocks at people, you're not completely blameless either. What did you say? Your third seat. That guy from your squad. I know you spend all your time with him in your library. Because I'm working, you moron. And when I want to surprise you, you say something like that. So it's my fault? Nanao asked. They're at it again. Kiba muttered to Shikamaru while doing their rounds. The new third seat of the 3rd Squad after Izuru had moved out. Another lovers' quarrel. Tell me when you see the lovers. Shikamaru muttered. This is such a pain. He brushed his hair impatiently. I can't even go to sleep because they're arguing right over my room. I've been wondering, why are those two together in the first place? What you mean? Well, at first they were like newlyweds, much as they were able, but now years later, they don't seem to be doing anything except fighting. What do you know about relationships? Shikamaru asked. More than you, at least. Kiba barked at him. Hi guys. Matsumoto jumped right in front of them with a happy smile. How are you doing? Troublesome woman. Shikamaru muttered and continued his walk, trying his best to ignore her. It's because of you that I can't sleep in the first place. What's his problem? Matsumoto asked. Nothing. Kiba smirked nervously. What brings you here, Matsumoto Fukutecho? Ooh. Nothing. She smiled. Just heard Na-chan's voice and then decided to drop by. I see he's over there. She turned her body towards the arguing couple. Trouble in the paradise. Years for now, he answered. I wouldn't go there if I were you. He might be an idiot, but even he will see the most obvious hints if they're rubbed in his face long enough. Thanks for the warning. Matsumoto smirked. But I think I will be alright. Just then, Nanao seemed to be storming away with very angry look on her face. I don't understand women. Naruto was having a drink with his beloved Aniki, Shiba Kyan. What's so wrong with me spending time with Ran-chan? Seriously. Naruto, I'm a married man and even I don't understand women completely. He took a sip of sake. But I guess I could summarize it all saying that no dog likes when another bitch comes pissing on their turf. Wah, neither of them has dogs. Only Kiba has an Akamaru as a male. Naruto explained. Kyan smiled suddenly. This is why I can't live without worrying about you. Naruto titled his head confused. Tasket Kudasai. Kitsune Oid Mamiji. He released his Zanpakuto. He was fighting in a forest against a huge hollow. The hollow brought its huge arm towards Naruto. He swung his blade and flocks of Mamiji leaves followed, and hit the body of the hollow like shuriken. Hado number 4. Byakurai. He raised his finger and large pale lighting impelled the hollow, taking it out completely. That makes 7. He smirked proudly when suddenly it came. He started coughing blood furiously without a break. Now this, he panted when the seizure finally ended, is really annoying. He crashed on the land. It's getting worse. Jiraiya muttered as he leaned to the doorframe in Naruto's room. Your condition, that is. I will be okay. Naruto muttered and wiped the sweat of his forehead. You haven't told the squad. Jiraiya shook his head. They don't know, but they do suspect. It's only a matter of time. Jiraiya left Naruto behind. Is everything alright? Tsunade asked from her son who was visiting her home. She was home a lot more now when she had given her captaincy to her little sister, Retsu, after losing a bet. No. Naruto answered and sighed. I'm fighting with Nao-chan, my condition is getting worse and don't know what to do. Tsunade didn't know how to answer to that. You will find a way. She smiled. But before you do, would mind lending your dear mother some money? Naruto narrowed his eyes. You really should stop gambling. I love her. Naruto screamed, a sake bottle in his hands and took a gulp. I love her. She's the love of my life. We get it. We get it. Iba, Hisagi and Izuru nodded understanding, also drunk. Vice captains of different squads had decided to take a small drink together for the first time in ages. Of course, the word small is a relative concept. She's so beautiful, yeah, now. He muffled drunken. When she smiles, I feel like all the ramens in the world are fused together just for me. Iba sniffed. That's so deep, man. He smacked his shoulder. So deep. What? Are you picking a fight? Naruto jumped up. What? It seems that I am. Iba stumbled up, already forgotten why he had smacked his friend in the first place. Nao-chan is my girlfriend. You better remember that. He swung his arm and accidentally hit Izuru's face, who fell down on his chair, pulling Hisagi with him. Of course, they weren't violent people. But people behind them were, and when they knocked down a waitress who was carrying a drink, it spilled it all over them, and furiously they tried to beat them down even more. And so, the whole bar was full of drunkards brawling. This is everything I found, Naruto-sama. Haku presented his findings from the library. It took me some time, but I finally got a hit. Naruto flipped through the pages. Wizards, He smirked slightly. He was a bit eager for a rematch with that guy, Hirako. His scars on his face itched always when he just thought how badly he got owned. You're being assigned to the real world? Nanao asked, shocked when Naruto came to tell the news. When? Immediately. Jiraiya Taiko has asked me to do this mission for him, and it might take a while. I just wanted to come and say goodbye. Nanao huffed and turned around. Fine. Go. I don't miss you. Naruto grinned angrily. Fine then. I won't miss you either. Naruto stormed out of the library. But at the door, he turned around. You know what? I promise that when I get back, I'm going to make you apologize for this. What? Nanao asked. Me. Apologizing. You. In your dreams, idiot. You'll see. His voice echoed when he finally left the building. Everyone else, Izuru, Kiba, Shikamaru, Hisagi, Iba, and everyone else who had come to see him offside together. Those two just couldn't get along, could they? It hurts, was his first thought. Naruto cracked his eyes open. The last thing he remembered was that he was being attacked by hollows when the seizure had come. Then he had crashed, and, yep. That was it. He had no memories of what had happened after that. So why there was a huge guy lying on top of him? Good morning, Shinigami Dono. Tessai greeted when Naruto opened his eyes. Good morning. Naruto gulped. I only have one question. Yes. Was I a complete gentleman? Tessai glasses glittered. Yes, you were. Thank you for that. Then he stood up. Owner. The guest has awakened. The door was sliced open and Urahara Kazuki entered the room. Good morning, Shinigami-san. Who are you? Naruto asked. Do I know you? Kazuki covered the lower half of his face with his fan. Of course not. He waved it. I'm just a humble candy shopkeeper. Nothing more. Okay. Naruto looked around the room. Where am I? In the back room of my shop. Kazuki stood there. This is my assistant, Tessai-san. We run this shop together. We have still 2 more little helpers but they're not home right now. Who are you? Naruto asked. When asking one's name, you should introduce yourself first. Tessai said firmly. Naruto glared back. Wasn't talking to you. What was? Tessai stepped forward when Kazuki stopped him. Owner. Could you serve us some tea, Tessai-san? Of course. He left the room. You don't seem polite for nobility. Kazuki pointed out. What makes you think I'm nobility? That tattoo on your forehead. You're Senju. Fine. You caught me, owner. Now, if you don't mind, he stood up. I have to leave and contact my squad. Then he felt sudden fatigue. You better not. Urahara pointed out. You've got some serious wounds on you. It would be best to wait until they heal, don't you think? Naruto couldn't help but fall down and nod. Fine. Then he noticed. Where is my necklace? Kazuki shrugged. I don't know. You didn't have something like that on you when we met. Oh my god. I lost my mom's necklace. Naruto yelled shocked. She is gonna kill me when she finds out. Speaking of your mother, Kazuki asked. What's her name? Why you ask? Naruto narrowed his eyes. I'm not setting up any blind dates. Of course not. Kazuki waved his fan. But she wouldn't be. Tsunade, captain of the 4th squad. You know her. Old acquaintance. Way back. Didn't know she got married. She didn't. Naruto answered, shocking Urahara. You don't seem to be very well updated on the latest gossips of high people of Seraite. He snorted. My mom got pregnant with a fellow captain over 100 years ago. Kazuki was taken back, shocked. I am possible. There was a moment of silence. She was actually seeing other people at the same time. Naruto titled his head. Kazuki. A black cat entered the room. Stop living in denial. Kazuki. Naruto asked. Urahara. Kazuki. See. Even he can connect the two. Yoruichi huffed and exited the room. What's with that cat? Naruto asked before turning towards Kazuki. Are you really Urahara Kazuki? Former captain of the 12th Squad and founder and first head of Technological Development Bureau. Yes, so you've heard of me. Kazuki looked into his eyes. But, my mom said you're dead. Naruto jumped up. How can you be alive if you're supposed to be dead? Your mother believes that he is dead. The same black cat answered from the doorway again. It's not her fault. So I'm Urahara Kazuki. So what? But, it's supposed to my dad's name. There was a moment of silence. Kazuki seemed to have frozen still. Owner. I'm back with the tea. Tessai placed the tray between Naruto and Kazuki, who was still in the same position, holding his fan over his lower face and face looking into nothingness, still in shock. Yoruichi Dono. I'm fine. Yoruichi waved her pawn. And Tessai, here's someone I want to introduce to you. She pointed her tail towards Naruto. This is Senju Urahara Naruto. This is Tsukubishi Tessai, former captain of Kido forces. Naruto is Urahara's son. Tessai is somewhat like my little brother like Kazuki. She turned her tail between the two. Is this true, owner? Tessai asked, surprised from Kazuki, who was even still in shock. He is in shock. Yoruichi answered. And it is. Look at the two. Tessai looked back and forth between Naruto and Kazuki. There was a great resemblance indeed. Same eyes, hair was similar, even though Naruto's was more spikier. Their body build and facial structure were also similar but not too obviously. Or they were so obvious that he had easily overlooked them when he had first met him. But now that he knew what to look for, it was obvious. So, what now? Let's leave father and son alone for the moment. Yoruichi stood up. There's no telling when he will finally snap out of it. 2 days later, Naruto was fully healed and walked to the living room, dressed like a normal teenager. Why do I have to use this Gigai? He stretched his arms around. It makes me feel completely powerless. That is its purpose. Yoruichi answered. It seemed that Kazuki hadn't moved even 1 inch from his spot. Shock must have been great. I already told you that we're runaways. We can't have your Ryutsu alerting others. That's one other thing, why am I not allowed to contact my squad? I'm supposed to meet up with my contact in 2 days to report about my mission. My people will be sick of worry if I don't appear then. And especially my mom. You don't know how protective she has been over me. I actually do. We were friends back then. Yoruichi answered and smirked. Back then she was very protective of her sister, Retsu. Even when Tsunade was a captain and Retsu her third seat, Tsunade wouldn't let her out of the barracks without an escort. Yep. That sounds my mom. Now you know why it's so important that I contact my squad. He moved towards the door. We can't let you do that. Tessai said and slammed his palms together quickly and formed a barrier. Naruto crashed onto it and fell down. Naruto Dono, please stay calm. Naruto stood up struggling and glared at Tessai. Let me go, or I will force my way out. That won't do. Kazuki interrupted them suddenly and entered the room. His hat covered his eyes. I can't let you go now, he muttered darkly. Naruto raised his hands to a fighting stance. He was good at kendo, master at iaido, but he wasn't any weakling while fighting barehanded. Not before what? Not before we had caught up all the lost time, son. Kazuki proclaimed cheerfully and raised a pair of baseball gloves and a ball, and before he noticed, Naruto was standing outside, in front of the house throwing ball with his dad. Everyone else sweat dropped. This wasn't exactly on my mind. Yoruichi whispered as they kept throwing ball back and forward. Here I come, son. Kazuki threw the ball to Naruto, who caught it and threw it back with a smile. Hey, what the hell? Naruto stopped suddenly. I'm not 5 anymore, he yelled, throwing the glow to the ground. Why would I want to keep doing this? Kazuki shrugged. Okay, to the next event. He yelled and rushed back in and out in a flash. Father-son fishing trip. He held out a pair of fishing lines. Let's go, son. He dragged him away, leaving Tessai to look after the shop for a full 2 days. This kept going for next weeks. Kazuki rushed through all activities normal fathers did with their son. Taught him how to ride a bicycle, went camping with him, talked about birds and bees. And everything was more and more embarrassing to Naruto. After 1 day of picnic in the wilderness, Naruto entered his own bedroom tired as ever. That man is crazy. He crashed on his bed when he noticed that he wasn't alone. Tessai. What is it? He didn't bother turn around to face him. Tessai. Who's that? Very deep voice that tried to imitate girlish voice answered. Naruto-kun, you're so mean. He turned around. He screamed so the whole neighborhood echoed. In front of him, Tessai was sitting there, seductively. That alone wasn't that bad. But he was wearing a large blonde wig and lipstick and some other makeup which made him look like a failure transvestite. What is going on? He retreated back to the wall panicking. What you mean, Naru-chan? Tessai winked. I knew it. You swing that way. Naruto screamed shocked. Son, wasn't this a nice day? Kazuki opened the door and acted surprised. Ooh, what's this? I didn't know you had a friend here. Sorry for disturbance. No, you're not disturbing. Tessai bowed to him. Otu-sama. What a kind girl. Kazuki complimented him. I knew it. You two have been living alone for too long. Naruto screamed as they kept going on with their sick play. But, isn't it normal to a father to interrupt with his son's time with his girlfriend? Kazuki asked. How is this normal? Naruto screamed and pointed at Tessai, who started acting like he was crying. Oh, stop it. And I already have a girlfriend besides. I think at least I do, but anyway. He kicked them both out. And don't do anything like that again. He slammed the door closed. Thanks for your efforts, Tessai-san. Kazuki smiled as he took of his wig. Don't mention it, owner. He nodded firmly. I want to do my best helping you to create a relationship with your son, so this is nothing. Kazuki. They both looked at Yoriichi, who walked down the hall. I've been watching from the side until now how you're doing this thing, but I had enough. She said firmly and sat in front of them. What you're talking about? You know perfectly. Yoriichi answered. His condition. When you will start doing something about it? Kazuki stood there silently. I've been watching him for a while now. I know what's wrong. And I know how to fix it. He walked away. Let's continue this tomorrow with him. The following morning, Naruto was introduced to the training room under the shop. He whistled amazed. This is really something. Never seen a place like this before. Glad you like it, Urahara said and cleared his throat. But there are also other reasons than just showing this room. I'm here to talk about you. Me. You must have realized something about yourself. He started. That your Ryutsu is different from a normal Shinigami's. You have those seizures when you're straining yourself. You don't even have a complete control over your Zanpakuto. You must know these things. Naruto couldn't help but nod. It was true. Kitsunoid Momiji had been acting up lately. She wouldn't activate sometimes or would show all its strength with just one go. You know what's wrong with me? Yes. Well, because it's kind of my fault. Kazuki looked a little uncomfortable and told what had happened all those years ago. You can guess that Naruto wasn't happy at all. I was doing an experiment with my invention called Hogyoku. And quickly explained the item and its uses. While that strange Ryutsu was being released, it wasn't yet complete and you were just a baby in your mother's womb. So when you were born, at some part, your growing up process had stopped almost completely. Like a normal child that is born with a brain deficit. You're calling me a retard now. Quite the opposite. But your poor skills with Kido and lack of control over your Zanpakuto can be explained like this. Because when a Shinigami or a Hollow is born, they have this something called signature in their Ryutsu. You on the other don't have this. Or you do but it's not full yet. Naruto blinked. So, can you cure me? No. Kazuki shook his head and turned away. This isn't something you just cure. This is something very rare. As you know, in the world, there are Shinigamis and Hollows. But there are those Shinigamis who have stepped into the world of the Hollows called Vizards. You've met them already. Or at least one of them. That Hirako guy, yes. He is a Vizard. You on the other hand are something like a quarter of a Shinigami and quarter of a Hollow. Like a pseudo-Vizard. You have so much unused potential in you. And until potential is harvested, you will keep having these seizures. Naruto blinked. Can you simplify it at all? Kazuki sighed. Think about a castle that is being built. But before you can start building a castle, you need to build walls to protect all the builders. I accidentally broke that wall and allowed the outside world into the castle. All the culture and life that was unknown before prevented the builders from completing the castle. So this unfinished castle is very poor place to live. So, what are we doing then? Are you just telling me that there's no hope? No, there is hope. But normal hope is like a light in the end of the tunnel. This hope on the other hand is, he pulled the handle of his cane and activated his Zanpakuto, is darker than darkness itself. He slashed through unexpecting Naruto with all his might. What the hell you think you're doing? He asked and touched his wound when he noticed that there was no wound. The Gigai was on the other in pieces. But he realized, something wasn't right. What is going on? He asked again, this time gasping in shock. I'm going to complete your transformation. Kazuki said. If pulling won't work, then you try pushing. Then he stabbed Naruto into his chest. This will be painful, but try to hold, son. He whispered and pulled out the Hogyoku. Naruto was introduced to the world of pain and darkness. He lost it. How awful. Tessai whispered, sweating. He was witnessing the scene from safe distance. It's for his own good. Yoruichi said. But I have to agree, this is awful. I hope they will last. Both of them. Naruto screamed from all his might before passing out. Naruto opened his eyes. He found himself from the safe and familiar forest of his mind. Like always, it was colored beautifully by autumn colors, and momiji leaves floated in the wind peacefully. Kitsune. He turned around to see Kitsune-oid Momiji's real form sitting there. Kitsune. Kitsune-oid Momiji. That's wrong. A new voice shrieked behind him. That's her name. Naruto turned around just in time to evade a fox trying to bite his neck. This fox wasn't anything like the first. It was like an albino fox. Completely white, expect its red eyes. Kitsune. I need my Zanpakuto. He turned his head again to locate her, but she had disappeared. Who are you? What did you with her? You don't know. The albino fox asked and smirked. I'm your Zanpakuto. The forest around them suddenly started burning with a raging fire. Naruto gulped. What is going on? Tessai asked while quickly forming another barrier around the swirling Ryutsu. I don't know. Yoruichi answered while seeking cover behind him. But you better stay on alert. Why is owner standing right next to this storm? It might get dangerous. He wants to stay by his side. She answered. For once. They saw how Naruto quickly started transforming into a hollow. This is bad. Naruto was now fighting the albino fox alone with tree branch he had found. He couldn't find his true blade anywhere. The fight was hard, especially when the fox was so small and agile. It kept biting and clawing him like a dummy all around, and he couldn't even scratch it. Why are you doing this? Naruto demanded from the fox. What did you do with the Kitsune-oid Momiji? Kitsune laughed. You still don't understand. I am Kitsune-oid Momiji. Your Zanpakuto. It's will to attack. Will to attack? Naruto asked. Yes. There are the two of us. She is your will to protect others and yourself. I am your will to fight and attack and destroy. I want to attack. I want to fight. I want to kill and destroy. Naruto stood there silently while holding his blade defensive. What you mean by such things? I don't want to fight. I always try to find a peaceful solution and use my Zanpakuto as a last way out. And because of that you suffer every day. You know this yourself, don't you? You know that power inside you. You've known that I'm here. You've known, and yet you still to refuse to accept my existence. And that's why you are wrong. The albino fox shrieked. And that's why you're here. That's why you're so weak. Because you gave the control over your blades to that bitch, you forced me to the back. I'm forced to fight that bitch time after time until you finally realize that I'm part of your existence. Until now, we are forced to fight time after time, until you finally die. And preventing you from reaching your true potential. Naruto took a step back. You want me to summon you? Yes. Summon me. And I will defeat that golden bitch and we can fight together like we're supposed to. Together forever. Now I know for sure that you're also my Zanpakuto. Naruto muttered and sighed. This is really something annoying. He walked closer. I guess I accept you and your powers as my own. He knelt next to the fox. Come out, Kina Momiji an, Golden Leaf Autumn. He whispered and the original fox appeared to his side. Snuggling closer. The albino fox shrieked angrily to it and it shrieked back. Show your true self, Gina Kitsune an, Silver Leaf Fox. He touched the albino fox's head gently and it suddenly turned into a beautiful silver-colored fox. But it didn't stop it from fighting with its golden sister. Then the forest's fire got even more raging and they stopped their bickering. Call us now. They told him in unison. Call us before it's too late. Naruto closed his eyes and stood up. Tatakai tame Hogo, Hogo kara Tatakai. Gina Kitsune Kina Mamiji. A.N. Fight to protect, protect by fighting. Silver Leaf Fox Golden Leaf Autumn. Kazuki was sweating. This had been harder than he had thought. First it had only been gigantic amount of Ryutsu flying around, but now Naruto was starting to transform into a hollow and to rampage everywhere. He couldn't attack his own son, so he was forced to evade all the attacks. But that wasn't easy, especially since he was obviously stronger than he had originally expected. Then it stopped, so suddenly that he almost tripped while trying to evade an attack that never came. The smoke cleared and Naruto stood there, wearing a hollow mask, shaped like a fox. Are you okay, Naruto? Kazuki hurried to ask. Did you complete your transformation? The mask started to crumble into ash right in front of him, revealing very tired face. Why you try it? He whispered quietly and lost consciousness. Kazuki took a hold of him before he could crash to the ground. You did well. Kazuki smiled. You've completed your transformation into a Shinigami. Tessai and Yoruichi landed next to him. What now? She asked, her tail swaying back and forward. Kazuki's eye was visible under his hat. We will rest. He smiled proudly. Next day, Naruto was in the training room, fully ready when he pulled his Zanpakuto out of thin air. He liked what it looked like. It was in two pieces. One was normal-looking katana and the other wakizashi. Only thing that united them with the old one was that neither of them had a safeguard. Naruto smirked, placed them to his waist. Tatakai tame Hogo, Hogo kara Tatakai. Gina Kitsune Kina Mamiji. He pulled both blades out of their scabbards. Katana in his right hand and wakizashi in his left. They transformed into a pair of his old Zanpakutos, but now they both had safeguards. They had beautiful silver and golden lining. For the first time, he couldn't sense the bloodlust coming from them. Now he knew what it meant to control a Zanpakuto. First art. He swung Kina, golden leaf, and created a wall out of Mojiji leaves. Second art. He swung Gina, silver leaf, and dozens of shuriken-like Mojiji leaves impelled a nearby rock and deeply. He placed both blades close to each other horizontally and swung Kina again. Third art. And suddenly another Naruto stood there, in exact same position as he now. Then he thought of something and sheeted Kina and took a hold of Gina with both hands. He took a firm grip and stance like from textbook. Then he swung the sword couple times like testing. Then after a deep breath. Fourth art. Naruto Dono has been training all morning. Tessai asked while serving the morning tea. Yes. He was so excited to get his new Zanpakuto that he couldn't wait any moment. Kazuki smiled happily when something exploded in the training room. What was that? They rushed downstairs to find very sooty Naruto standing on top of a small crater. Naruto. Kazuki yelled. Are you okay? Slowly. Naruto turned his head and showed his thumb. I'm okay. He smirked. I need to work on that one. That was really reckless. Tessai said while bandaging him up. Trying to learn another move with your Zanpakuto like that. You were lucky you only got second-degree burns. Naruto laughed. I just got this really amazing move in my mind and I thought it would incredible if I were able to complete it. I see. Kazuki smiled. Then work hard, boy. I'm cheering you on. Thanks, Dad. Naruto yelled childishly and moved downstairs. Yosh. Kazuki smiled proudly as the other two sweat dropped. I think I'm starting to get a hang of this fatherhood stuff, don't you think, Yoruichi-san? I wonder if Jinta and Ururu see me like that too. In any case, I'm going now. Yoruichi answered. Ooh, why? I have to look into something. She continued and moved out of the house. I will see you sooner or later. Beware of big dogs. He yelled after her. Then he looked at Tessai. I think you should go and pick our dear helpers up from that camp they went. Of course. He nodded firmly. And what about Naruto Dono? I will take him to Hirako-san when he's done training. Another explosion erupted downstairs, which might be sooner than I thought. So, what are we doing here? Naruto asked as they entered the old warehouse. You'll find out soon. He smiled and walked forward. Hirako-san, are you here? Well, look who's here. A figure quickly stepped before them. Kazuki, what the hell do you want? Hey, Dad, who's that boy? A tick appeared on Hyora's head just before she kicked Naruto's head painfully. Who are you calling a boy, you asshole? I'm a girl. Gay like you wouldn't recognize a woman even if beaten to death by one. Calm down, Hiyori-san. Kazuki placed his hand over her shoulder. Forgive my son for that one, he has something to learn about manners. None taken. With Hiyori, you can't tell whatever she's a girl, boy or a gorilla. Hirako Shinji sat above them. Before Hiyori could retaliate, Naruto had used Shunpo to appear behind him and draw his katana out of its scabbard. There was a loud crash when Hirako blocked the attack. Oyh. Where are you, manners? Not even a hello. Just paying back for last time. Naruto answered with a smirk before jumping back and sheathing his sword but didn't lower his guard. Well, it's nice that you remembered me, but I don't really feel like Fig. Naruto attacked again and pulled his katana again out of its scabbard. Damn Yuri Ido. Hirako cursed when he dodged another attack. You made me go through hell last time. I want to return the favor. He answered and touched the scar over his eye. Even though it's not like me to hold a grudge against people, especially after a long time, you really did me in last time, and ever since when I even think about that fight, this scar itches. Ain't that nice? Hirako muttered when Naruto charged again and attacked. Those two really hit it on. Love said lazily while enjoying the show. Your boy sure has a talent with the sword. Thank you. Kazuki smiled proudly. The way he is fighting, he will be a good add to our group. Kensai muttered. You must have misunderstood something. Everyone looked at Kazuki. I'm not here to give my son to any group. I brought him here to complete his holification process and to see other wizards now that we have time. Much as I expected. Hirako smirked as he kicked Naruto away. You've improved somewhat since the last time we fought. You can actually fight me. Then took an offensive stance. Now, I'm going slowly push you into the corner and force your hollow self to the surface. We can start working from there. Naruto took a deep breath and unsheathed his wakizashi. Wakizashi in one hand and katana in the other, he took his stance. Yoroshiku ongeshimasu. In Seraite, things were inching forward with their own weight. The news of Naruto's disappearance hadn't yet become public knowledge. Tsunade was lazing of her days gambling, drinking, and crying over her son who was leaving her. Shizune tried her best to keep her in line and out of trouble. Haku, Naruto's personal guard, was feeling extremely anxious and nervous. It had been his job to keep Naruto safe during his childhood years, when he had been weaker and most of time in sickbed. They had first met when Naruto had sneaked out of home. He had met this young boy alone from dangerous parts of Rukongai and asked if he would be his friend, giving him a reason to live and by doing so saving him. Ever since, Haku had been Naruto's guard. But without him, there was little to do. Expect gardening, which was starting to bore him already. Izuru, Naruto's former third seat, who was now Ichimaru Jin's and Protection Squad's vice captain. He was doing well. People in his squad respected him and listened his orders. Of course he didn't feel that he had quite the same respect he and others had towards their vice captain in the third squad. But he was doing well. Kiba, the new third seat of the third squad, was doing excellent, especially now when Naruto was gone. He was practically the leader of the squad. Ah shit. He yelled infuriated and banged his head to the table. This is so wrong. What's wrong, Kiba-kun? Fourth seat Hinata asked quietly while holding some documents. Is something wrong? Our captain, That's what wrong. Our vice captain, that's what wrong. He yelled loudly. But neither of them is here now. Naruto-kun is in the real world and Jiraiya Taiko is. That's exactly what is wrong with them. He ranted. Why am I the third seat? Only third seat supposed to do both captain and vice captains and my own jobs while they are having fun. Hollow Naruto was crushed on the rocks by Kensai's fist. Jiraiya was protecting his jewels from enraged women he had been peeping on. How is this supposed to be fair? He whined. So unfair. He added with a whimper. You're so troublesome. Nuko fourth seat Shikamaru walked in unhappy as always when interrupted his cloud watching. Izuru didn't complain. Naruto didn't complain. Hinata doesn't complain. I complain more than enough. Kiba muttered back. Anyway, I wish I could get some action too. But no, I have to babysit this bunch of idiots all day long. Fourth seats exchanged looks and sighed. Please, Naruto, come back to us before that idiot kills us. Or we kill him. In the fourth squad barracks, Sakura, Ino and the new vice captain Katetsu Azane and captain Senju Retsu were going on with their lives. Sasuke had been promoted to the fourth seat of the first squad. Matsumoto was bored as hell. Now that her, Naru-chan, was gone, she didn't have anything to do for now. She smiled childishly when she thought how things had been between her and him. It wouldn't take forever for him to realize that she was there for him and that they belonged together. But now, she was bored and had nothing to do. Well, maybe not nothing. There was her captain, and her squad. She could always play with them. And of course, her greatest enemy, Nanao-chan. She smiled as she recognized the girl in front of her, carrying a book. Matsumo Fukutecho. She corrected her glasses and greeted her with freezing tone. What brings you here? Ooh, nothing. She smiled happily. I was just thinking about my Na-chan and how he must be heartbroken right now. Alone in the real world knowing that his girlfriend isn't waiting for him when he finally gets back. What's your point? Nanao asked angrily. Nothing. Matsumoto said innocently. I can't remember how my and Naruto-san's business have anything to do with you. Naruto-san. Sounds so distant and cold. She thought out loud. I'm his best friend, you remember? Or is it that you can't even pretend to care enough about him to remember that? Nanao clutched her teeth tightly. Anything else? Nothing. Nice talking to you. She smiled happily and danced away. I wonder what Naru-chan is thinking right now. You, me. I'm tired. Naruto whispered beaten when the mask turned into ash. Tired. Ramen. Tired. No, little ramen. Nanao gulped her anger down and tried to stay calm. This as much as she should have expected. It even hadn't been the first time when someone was questioning if she and Naruto were still a couple. And the truth is, she had that same question. Unfortunately, no one, but he could really answer it. She crashed down to the floor, leaning to the wall. The lone corridor was the perfect place for this. How did it turn out like this? First it had been all romantic, just the two of them. Then, slowly, just like she had predicted when the first attraction started to fade, problems started to arise. First, his family. She had only met his mother few separate occasions but they all had ended her practically throwing her out. And it didn't really help that Naruto tried his best to stay out of the fight. Not that she could really blame him. Of course it would be hard to go against either your mother or girlfriend. Secondly, his friends. Nanao didn't really get along with the few people who he spent time with. Especially since almost everyone she knew was in the Shinigami Men's Association, she couldn't show any weakness to them. She had luckily kept Naruto out of it. Third reason had just ruined her day. Matsumoto. Before, Nanao had been very neutral with her but after they had started dating, it was all-out war between them. Of course, they remained civilized because of Naruto, that idiot couldn't see the most obvious thing in the world. And he had demanded that the two of them would be friendly with each other. That was of course on the surface. Or, it should be. When they were in the same room, they would speak politely but subtly insult one another. Naruto would think it is a friendly conversation. That idiot. She sighed. But, she couldn't bring herself to hate him. On the contrary, she missed him so much now. She quietly stood up and continued her errand what had been interrupted. While Naruto was trying to gain control of his new powers, everyone was going on with their lives. Haruno Yakiru, 11th Squad's vice captain, Haruno Sakura's older sister, was living happily on the shoulders of her Ken-chan. Naruto woke up in his own bed. Pain in his body reminded him that yesterday wasn't a dream. He had been training hard with other wizards, but now he had returned home. He had also met two other residents of the house, Jinta and Ururu. So when he walked into the dining room and sat down, he was eating his breakfast in a small, cramped room. That was the very moment Kazuki told a very strange order to his son. "You want me to go to school?" Naruto asked, shocked that he dropped his chopsticks. "Have you been eating tessei remedies again?" Tessei glasses glittered, but he ignored that. "Of course not." Kazuki yelled and waved his fan childishly. "I just realized that you're 15-year-old boy, in this world anyway, who has been doing nothing but having fun at home for all this time. You should go and enjoy your youth with other teenagers while you still can." "But what about home and my mission? I'm still with the Gote 13. It will be fine if you don't go there now." "What?" Naruto narrowed his eyes. "Well, to be honest, you can't go. Not anymore at least." "Naruto." Kazuki covered his face. "Last time wizards were found in Seraite, they were condemned to be treated as hollows and were almost executed," he said with a dark voice. "And I doubt they would judge you any differently." Naruto crashed on the floor. "You mean I'm an outlaw?" "For the time being, yes." Kazuki nodded to others and they left the room. Jinta had to be dragged out. "Naruto, I need to tell you something about how and why everything is the way they are." "What you mean?" He could see his father's eye. "I need to tell you a story, from 100 years ago," and he told how Aizen had planned the disappearances of tens of souls and how he had managed to transform Hirako and others into wizards. How he himself had tried to revert the process and how he and Tessai were framed. How Yoruichi had saved them. How they had left all their lives behind and escaped. "And that's how we ended up here. But, can't we prove that you guys are innocent?" "How?" Kazuki asked. "They didn't believe us the last time, I doubt they would now." "We don't have any evidence." "Then what are we supposed to do? Just sit here and wait? I have a life out there. A girlfriend. A family. What should I do?" "Forget them." Kazuki sighed. "Naruto, I'm not forcing you into anything. But I want you to know the consciences of your actions if you go back. For one, soon as you're find out, you're treated as a hollow and executed. What will those people around do, when that will happen? Abandon you. Or worse, try to save you." Naruto gulped. "I'm not saying these things because I want to be a total asshole. I want you to be safe." Kazuki placed his hand to his shoulder. "We will think of something before long." Naruto covered his face with his hands. "What can I do?" Kazuki smiled. "Get dressed. Go to school and live a life like a normal person." "You found this?" Tsunade whispered, swallowing her surfacing tears. "You found this in the real world?" Jiraiya sat in front of her, a gloomy impression on his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Shizune covered her mouth with her hand. "It can't be. I'm sorry." Jiraiya whispered again. They all looked at small green jewel pendant that Jiraiya had brought with him. "Where we found it, there were much blood on the ground. Tests proved that it was his, and we found several hollow Ryutsu signatures fading from that area." "I'm sorry. You should be." Tsunade screamed suddenly and jumped up, hitting Jiraiya into the face. Jiraiya flew outside of the house, crashing with a surrounding wall and fell on the ground. He didn't even try to get back up. "You killed my son. My only Sickly son who you thought could handle a mission in the real world. She kept screaming and crying uncontrollably. Retsu appeared next to her and hugged her gently. Tsunade started crying on her shoulder. An-san, she whispered comfortingly. Azane and Shizune both witnessed this with sad eyes. Naruto had always been such a happy child, running around wildly. They were adjutants of Senju sisters and had come very familiar with the boy. They considered him their own little brother. They could both remember him sitting on the porch, just outside of his room, smiling happily to the garden. That image faded, it would never happen again. Shizune stood up and walked to Jiraiya, who still lied on the ground, blank expression on his face. You should leave, she whispered. Quietly, Jiraiya stood up. I'm sorry. He walked away. Rangaku was drowning herself into booze. Naru-chan, she whispered quietly before starting to sob. Why didn't I just tell you when I had a chance? Why did you have to die? Who are you? The blonde girl asked from the boy who was lying on the bed, inside the house. Are you sick? The boy didn't reply but turned to his side, back towards her. Hey, that's rude. Rangaku screamed angrily. Your friends should tell you that that isn't nice. I don't have any friends. Naruto whispered with low voice. Go away. Rangaku huffed and suddenly jumped inside. No way. She kicked Naruto to his back, surprising him. Apologize. Naruto looked like he was going to cry. He was bullied outside his home, but now inside too. And no, I didn't do anything wrong. Rangaku's eye twitched. You were rude to a girl. That's wrong. Ugly girl like you don't deserve anything better. Why you? Rangaku was about to hit when a thought came to her. So, if I get to admit that I'm pretty, you will apologize. That's not going to happen. Naruto muttered. Yes or no? She screamed, scaring him badly. Why yes. Rangaku smirked triumphantly. I will make you apologize no matter what. And then you have to admit that I'm a pretty girl. She turned around smugly and walked away. By the way, I'm Rangaku. Naruto. The boy whispered, dumbfounded. Why did you have to leave me? She whispered, tears running down her cheeks. I couldn't even tell you how I felt. She whimpered. Next person who found her, found a woman passed out on the table, dozens of sake bottles rolling in her feet. Nanao was busy. First she needed to file the reports of her squad's achievements, then she needed to look for some evidence in this case where she represent one of her subordinates, after that she should review archives for past century, get moving. She screamed to her subordinates as they were slacking behind. But Fuku Taiko, we've been working for past 2 days. We need some sleep. Don't kill me. He covered himself with his hands like a frightened child. Fine. Nanao screamed but continued to read documents. Leave me alone. Don't disturb me. She threw everyone out of the library. Kiraku Shunsui looked at his vice captain with a gloom expression on his face. Ever since the news had reached her, she had covered herself in work, not allowing herself to think what had happened. Sighing darkly, he left the library where Nanao had suddenly found a need to rearrange it from the beginning. How are you feeling? Yukatake Jushiro asked from Jiraiya when they were drinking. Losing a vice captain is always hard. Jiraiya gulped down his sake saucer. Thanks for the efforts, but I don't think I want to feel any better for a while. Don't be like that. Shunsui opened the door to the cabinet and sat next to them. How is he doing? He is going get blasted and then forget the whole mess. That's how he is doing. Jiraiya answered and took another gulp. That's pretty much it. Yukatake's sweat dropped awkwardly. How was Nanao? No change. Shunsui poured to himself some sake and sighed. Come on. He smirked. Let's drink and make asses out of ourselves. Remember when we were all back in the academy? We got drunk the night before graduation and when we woke up, we were in girls' dormitory. Yukatake was wearing, for some reason, nothing but girls' underwear. Jiraiya Stark, wearing makeup, and for some reason I had a wedding kimono on me. I'm still curious how those things happened. You talked me into taking a one little drink. Yukitake blamed them, embarrassed blush on his face. It wasn't my fault. I remember that I wanted to see that Kayano-sensei's room, Jiraiya muttered. But it was you who suddenly suggested a drinking game. They all laughed to memories of their academy days and after. This occasion wasn't the first time Jiraiya had lost his vice captain. After all, he had been a captain over 2 centuries. He had lost many, so many he wouldn't like to admit, but it always stung hard when it happened. He was the old-timer. He wasn't supposed to see the young ones die. Especially ones with so much potential as Naruto. They boy's dream was very plausible. He sighed. Thinking about death and living all that, he poured some sake. I hope he enjoys himself, wherever he is. Jiraiya muttered and gulped again. That shitty old man. Naruto clenched his teeth and forced a smile. Hi, I'm Naruto. Urahara Naruto. I live with my dad who owns a small shop downtown. Yoroshikyu. Hi. Teacher clapped his hands. I want every one of you to welcome Naruto-kun warmly to this class and help him to get started. Sit down next to Sato-kun over there. Sato-kun. Gigantic teenager raised his hand and pointed towards the seat next to him. Over here. Thanks. Naruto walked through the class, followed by curious eyes. So, Sato, right? You're huge. Thanks. You're blonde. Sato answered lamely. That's right. I have my dad's hair color. Naruto ruffled his hair. He looked around. So, what's the deal then? Deal? I mean, what's the subject we are studying? Then he added with a low mumble. Yeah, that sounds like a person from a real world. Sweat dropped. Sato cleared his throat. We're studying math. Ooh, like, 1 + 1 = 2. No, slightly more complicated than that. Sato's sweat dropped. Okay, I get it. Naruto leaned back when teacher started to explain something. Yasutora Sato glanced at the desk next to him. For the first time that he could remember, he could actually witness the sleeping process so fast-forwarded. In 2 minutes, the new student was drooling on his desk, behind his book. When the lunch began and the bell rang, his head snapped upwards. Sato couldn't believe Naruto's luck. Teacher had ignored him the whole time, and now that he sat there like he had never even flinched, he finally noted him. Urahara-kun. Teacher looked at him. How was your first class? Were you able to hang on? Yeah, no problems. Chad's sweat dropped. Good, because I know it must be hard for a student to come change schools in middle of a semester, especially right before their high school applications, so if you need any help don't hesitate to turn on us for help, teacher or your fellow students. Sato-kun here is among top students of the school. With that he walked away. He seems nice. Naruto said brightly, following Chad around. He is a great sensei. He admitted. He can see through first impression unlike many other students or teachers. After couple minutes being followed, he couldn't ignore it anymore. Urahara-san, why are you following me? Aren't you showing me around? Sure. So they walked all the way to the roof where, to Naruto's amaze, a group of teenagers pluming each other. Or after a moment of watching, he realized that it was this one kid with orange hair doing all the pluming while others just tried to do something about it. Just when he was about to ask something about this scene from Sato, the giant boy rushed forward, swooping through the group, right behind this orange-haired kid and punched one of the brats around him into the face. These two stood back to back, taking their opponents one by one until they understood that this duo wouldn't go down today, so they run, taking their wounded with them. So this place has time to rest and shows for entertainment. Naruto clapped his hands. Really different from where I used to go to school. Chad, who's this guy? The guy with orange hair. Did he follow you? This is Urahara Naruto-san. Sato did the honors. He transferred to my class this morning. Urahara-san. This is Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki. Naruto repeated the name deep in thought. Like I've heard that name somewhere before. My family owns a clinic in this town. Ichigo explained and Naruto shrugged. Must be it. Anyway. So, why did you beat these kids? Stealing their money. What? No. Ichigo jumped up. Who do you think I am? Those guys just always pick a fight with us all the time because we're so different. You should know, with that hair color and style. My hair? Naruto asked and touched his head. I never thought about it because it never was an issue back in the academy. Academy? Ichigo asked. I mean school. Naruto jumped and cleared his throat. Anyway, nice to meet you. He smiled widely. Let's be friends. Sure. Why not? It was just then when one of the knocked out idiots finally could stand on his own. He watched as some new brat was making friends with Kurosaki and Sato. He decided to act. He picked up a pipe and voiced a war cry before charging at Naruto's turn back. Watch out. Both Sato and Ichigo tried to warn him, but Naruto narrowed his eyes and reached for the insides of his shirt. With one smooth motion, he pulled out a normal-looking fan, turned around, dodged the metal pipe easily and slapped the thug's neck hard, knocking him on his back and turned back to face Ichigo and Sato and sheeted his fan back to his side. Amazing. You know kendo or something? Ichigo asked. I'm master in Iaido. Naruto scratched his head embarrassed of their amazed expressions and pulled the fan back and waved it nervously. I used to practice with my school. He laughed and looked around. Is this a usual occurrence here? Most students often give us hard time and pick fights, so we just defend ourselves. Who? Naruto nodded, understanding. Have you ever tried talking to them? After that day, Naruto started hang out with the two and quickly found himself also attacked by delinquents all the more often. And before he realized it, he was now part of a gang called Strongest Trio. His father was ecstatic. Urahara had smiled proudly and happily patted him on the head, telling him how pleased he was. And then suddenly he changed his attitude and started ranting about dangers of the delinquent life and not taking his studies seriously and coming out late. It took a while to him to understand that Kazuki was doing his usual father-son moments act they had missed in life, and soon the rant died down and he started asking if they were going to take over the neighborhood, and should he start to prepare himself for angry parents coming to his house calling him a bad father. Naruto only shrugged. Your father's really sounds a strange guy. Ichigo said while they were eating lunch. For once, they hadn't been called out so they could actually enjoy their lunch in the classroom. Well, I still think he loses a fight of insanity with my dad. Naruto shrugged. Well, he's a good guy and best in what he does. He just tries to catch up with lost time. Lost time? Chad asked curiously. Yeah, I mean after what happened with my mom and he cleared his throat quickly. It's complicated, so let's leave it that. Okay. So, our school's baseball team got its ass kicked in last game. So, how's life in a real life treating ya? Hirako asked with uninterested voice and a half-eaten biscuit in his mouth while browsing through a magazine. Naruto glanced at the pictures and drool started dropping from behind his mask. He was lonely. It had been a long time since the last time and he was getting excited more easily. You're open. Lisa screamed and thrusted forward with her Zanpakuto. Naruto pulled out his Wakizashi, sealed form of Kina, and was only barely able to block the attack, or so he thought, when Lisa's attack pierced his mask and shattered it in half. Naruto fell on his backside and panted quietly. You allowed yourself to be distracted by mere magazine of girls in it. Are you a pervert? She glared down to him. You're one to talk. Naruto jumped back up angrily. You're the one who keeps those magazines in the open and keeps reading them. It's not my fault that I'm feeling horny, Hirako suggested nonchalantly. Yeah, now that I think about it, it seems that no one of you gets any action around here. When was the last time any of you got some? Everyone tensed considerably, but Naruto didn't notice, so he continued. I mean, You keep reading in the open, he said to Lisa. You're just working out like a bulldozer. He glanced at Kensai, who quickly took a step back from the punching bag he had hang for himself. And you seem to have lost every reason to get up in the morning. He shot a look at Love, who had been lying around lazily. And Rose just keeps doing his hair like it's an orgasmic experience, so I guess that okay. He turned around to face him when the long, blonde-haired musician suddenly dropped his comp. He turned towards Hirako. Don't let me even start about you. Then he looked towards the group of three, Mashiro, Hiyori and Hachi, before turning away, ignoring their shocked impressions. I mean, I know it must be hard to live around the same faces for a century, but shouldn't you guys go out more? You know, get some, relax some, and live some. Then he felt like a brick had just hit him on his head when Hiyori kicked him. What about us, you asshole? She screamed and started stomping on him. You think I can't have a life? Or me? Hachi said slowly. I mean, I'm a good-looking guy, right? I could get some action if I wanted to. Right, guys? He looked at his friends to see that they were avoiding his gaze. Hachi had fallen to depression, where others soon joined him. Mashiro was the only one who didn't quite get what was going on but kept poking Naruto's carcass with a finger. It seemed that Naruto had just found a problem that no one even noticed existed before. So, what should we do tonight? Ichigo asked from Naruto as they walked down the street, while chatting with each other. Chad remained silent like always. Let's hit the arcade. He made sure he got it right. Nah. We go there every day. Ichigo complained. Let's do something different. But I wanna go to an arcade. Naruto pouted like little kid. Come on. No. Ichigo stated flatly. Please. No. Please. No. Chad sighed quietly to himself as he continued to witness this childish bickering. By the way, Naruto. He said suddenly, and they stopped and both looked at him. How did you do on your end-of-term exams so far? What? What exam? Naruto asked, confused, and took his thinking pose. This particular pose was reserved for those moments when he was thinking something important. Or thinking anything at all, his friends added in their minds. Ooh, that piece of paper where there was a lot of questions. Yeah, Chad gulped. It had become a clear habit of Naruto's that he slept during classes. Even teachers noticed this and often had to reprimand him for being disrespectful and all. Chad was amazed if he even passed. Not being fencing to his new friend, but he certainly didn't pass as a studious type. Meanwhile, Naruto pulled out a piece of paper and showed it to them. Here. What you think? Did I do good? Chad was prepared for some lame, you did well, but maybe you should start taking school a bit more seriously, talk when he noticed the results. The grade point average of all the tests so far was over 90%. And almost all the mistakes were only mere technicalities. He and Ichigo face faulted. Seriously? He whispered. How? Naruto shrugged. I don't know. Those things are just so easy. He shrugged and walked away, leaving the two gawking at his test results. But he's not even awake most of the time. Ichigo's scream filled the street. That day, Kazuki told Naruto that he had been summoned to his principal's office. What did he want? Am I in trouble? Unfortunately, not. Kazuki sighed, depressed. He had been so excited when he had been summoned to the principal's office for the first time. Ready to defend his son's behavior, telling that he had a hard time, mother problems, and that there would be punishments delivered and he would straighten his son out, like a normal father of a delinquent. Imagine his disappointment when he comes to the office, where he talks with the principal and Naruto's homeroom teacher and finds out that his son was a genius. Well, of course he was a genius if these were the standards. Seriously. Naruto had been homeschooled by some of the best tutors in Seraite of what money could buy for years. Tsunade had made sure of that. She had thought that he would stay out of trouble if he was busy keeping his nose in the books, that turned out so well, and of course she had prayed that he would find himself a life calling somewhere else than becoming part of the Gote 13. Well, both of those ideas failed, but Naruto's head was full of book knowledge. Not that he ever used it. Anyway, the principal had asked about Naruto's circumstances which had made him to move into Karakura town. Kazuki was forced to make up a sad weepy story of a man who fell in love with a daughter of a rich and powerful family and how their love had been forbidden. How they had dated in secret but betrayal of his colleagues had forced him to leave. Then, years later, few months back, a young boy is forced to live with him due circumstances he refused to talk about. A boy whose existence he hadn't even known before he was hugging him and calling him Dad. Urahara swept a tear from the corner of his eye and glanced around how everyone in the room already wept. He continued the story by telling how bad father he was for not knowing his existence and not being able to be there for him. How self-loathing he was and how everything was his fault. And then he ended his speech how he would make sure he would be there for his son for the rest of his life and would never let him go anywhere. For some reason principal's secretary hugged him tightly so he could feel her well-sized touching his own chest. Everyone cried. Except Kazuki, who was grinning happily. Then, Kazuki had asked what they had wanted to talk about and noticed swiftly that the principal hid documents under other papers and waved his hands nonchalantly. He had seen that the papers were about Naruto's transforming school into some prestigious genius school, but his story had obviously made them forget such intentions because the principal promised that there was nothing to worry about and he should be proud of his son and give him some space and slack and he was sure to come around. So here I am, praised that my son is a genius and I should tell you to go off and have fun. He huffed, looking hurt. When I get to ground you, huh? What kind of father am I if my son doesn't even get grounded? Naruto couldn't help but snicker when he listened to his father telling the story. Don't worry, Dad, I will get into a fight with someone from the neighborhood so they will come and complain and you can ground me, okay? You really would do that? Kazuki asked again as his happy and excited himself. You're the best son a man like me could ever hope for. He leaned to hug him over the table. Come here, son. Get away from me, you freak. Naruto yelled and ran out of the kitchen, holding his chopsticks and rice as he went. No way I'm going to hug another man in my life. Don't be shy, my son. Come on, give you daddy a hug. They run around the front yard all night long. What has gotten into owner lately? Jinta asked from the doorway. Ever since that guy showed up, it has been one disaster after another. Please, Jinta Dono. Owner is just happy. And not tormenting us for once, so take this chance to relax. Jinta grunted something incomprehensible and walked back inside while Naruto tried to fend off his hug-sick father by throwing dishes at him. And when he run out of those, he started kicking him desperately. Seriously. That guy is crazy. Naruto ranted in Vizard Clubhouse. Being disappointed that I'm called a genius, for once wanting me to start trouble, being proud of me being a delinquent. In middle of a dinner he start chasing after me, wanting to hug me. I'm serious. I need to do something about this. What you think? He turned to face his audience. Where is everybody? Hachi and Mashiro were only people who were in the hideout, now that he noticed to look around. They thought a little time outside wouldn't hurt them. Hachi explained sadly. I, too, went out but realized that something were just true, so I came back to keep Mashiro-chan some company. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You mean, you tried to get some action and failed miserably, so you stayed behind, on babysit duty. Mashiro only sat on Hachi's headboard. Everyone left thinking I'm some little baby. It's not nice of them. She pouted. When I said I could get a boyfriend too, they just laughed. They are so mean. She pouted twice as hard. I even got some human clothing for me. She said, pointing at some red dress in front of her. Mashiro wants a boyfriend too. Naruto couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Why don't we play some poker while we wait for them come home? He suggested. So they played and waited. First one to return was Love. Bitches. He muttered and opened a beer bottle. I hate bitches like that. He yelled into the emptiness of the room. Who says it's lame to read manga in my age? Huh, who's going to tell me that I can't enjoy the humor, the drama and action even if they are drawn as pictures? Huh, who's going to? He kept ranting to himself while sitting down into the group and taking some cards. What are we playing? Next one to return was Lisa, who seemed repulsed. She just sat into the circle and joined the game. When no one said or did anything but looked at her, she grunted angrily. I just asked some questions about UAL preferences and they ran away. Damn Puritans. Then it was Kensai. He just sat down and gulped to their looks. Good body, beautiful face, nice personality, and there was definitely a spark. So, what did she need to satisfy you? Love asked. It wasn't what she needed but what she had. He paled just from the thought. Then it was Rose. He just sighed and smiled sadly. It wouldn't work. He too joined the game. Day started to change into a night, but there was no sign of either Hiyori or Shinji. Maybe they actually got some. Love suggested, annoyed. I don't think so. Naruto shrugged when everyone was looking at him questionably. He just laughed and brushed them off. I have only my doubts. Nothing more. And then, very Kazuki-like maneuver, he covered the lower half of his face. Finally, very pleased-looking Shinji stepped down the stairs into the basement. Ooh, look who's here. It's a bunch of singles, isn't it? What's this? A singles poker night. He stretched his arms dramatically and yawned loudly. Well, I better get to bed soon. All this action made me very tired. Yeah, I bet it did. Naruto muttered. Worth of every yen. Right. Shinji paled. I don't know what. I saw you entering that bordello on my way here. Now everyone started laughing. Didn't think much about it. Shinji sighed disappointed and sat into the ring with others. At least I got some. Bot doesn't count. Love yelled angrily. Why not? After 2 hours of waiting, Hiyori walked down, humming happily. How's that, you losers? I got a date. With a boy who asked me out. Everyone laughed and ignored her. I told you she would come back. You worried for nothing. Shinji said, bored. Ace high. But she has a tendency to attract attention. Nothing. Naruto folded his hand. Stop ignoring me. I got a date. Sure you did. Lisa answered indifferently while folding his hand too. Believe me, you assholes. She started beating the group, but no one believed her. Outside the factory, very scared-looking Asano Keigo was looking around. Some girl had just stopped him in the middle of a street saying, "You will do," and dragged him away. Now, after being practically robbed and kidnapped, he was waiting for what to do. As these things happened, Senju Naruto, vice captain of the 3rd Squad, bastard Senju, the next head of one of the great noble houses of Sarite, boyfriend of Aiz Naneo, and best friend of Matsumoto Rangaku, boy who went to academy with Hyuga Hinata and Nara Shikamaru, a man who grew up to be a master of Iaido, good sword man and excellent team leader, has a great talent in shunpo and stealth, had no Kido control, often sickly, friendly with everyone, respected leader, dream of becoming the next captain commander of Gote 13 and always, Mama's little boy, to Tsunade, his mother. This man ceased to exist and was replaced with Urahara Naruto, the weird blonde kid in school, the sword guy, in the strongest trio, the delinquent gang, a boy who lived with his father in his candy shop. The boy who got almost perfect answer rate even though never paying any attention during class. Kurosaki Ichigo's and Yasutora, Chad, Sato's friend. The boy who applied into the same high school as they did. Karakura High School. So as months passed and the spring came, they all walked past the school gates, their bags over their shoulders, dressed in their new school uniforms. This is high school, huh? Ichigo muttered as they stood in front of the building. Yeah, I imagined it a bit different. Naruto admitted. How? I guess I thought it would be higher. You know, high school. Ichigo and Chad exchanged looks. Even if Naruto was some hidden genius, Like their teacher liked to comment him, he lacked so much the normal, common sense, you expected to find from a normal person. That is, if you could consider Naruto even slightly normal. This is it, Chad muttered as they looked at the board in the wall. Classes were placed in order. We're all in class 1 to 3. Lucky. Yeah, amazing. Ichigo patted his friends' backs. I was afraid you would be sent to some high-class prestigious school far off, but you end up in our class in our school. That is lucky, Naruto. Yeah, lucky. Or it might have been something to do with Kazuki using the memory modifier and making it possible. After all, delinquent gangs should stick together. I think it might have something to do with us being delinquents. Wait just a minute. Ichigo jumped back. He signed Chad and himself. Weren't delinquents in the first place. We were just students who were picked on and fought back when necessary. Then you came along and more guys started challenging us, and before we knew it, we were this stupid thing called strongest trio. Naruto slapped him with his fan painfully. Don't point, it's rude. He scolded. Ow. Ichigo held his hand painfully. Guys, Chad interrupted them. Maybe we should get inside. People are looking. Naruto and Ichigo both looked around. It was true, they were being watched. Many students crept away from them, trying to act inconspicuous. They quickly stopped bickering, picked up their bags. Naruto stuck his fan inside his uniform and stepped inside. Well. They all stopped as they recognized the voice. Isn't it the three dwarfs? It's the strongest trio. Naruto corrected him, annoyed. Why do you care? Ichigo asked. Well, obviously I care what people think of me. I mean, imagine if I ask a girl out. Wouldn't it be kind of humoring if the first thing they asked was, are you one of the three dwarfs? You're asking a girl out. What about that amazing girlfriend you have, wherever is that you come from? Chad asked, confused. Yeah, I thought about it and realized that we didn't end in best terms, and I haven't even heard of her for months now. It's complicated. The bully just now started to feel ignored and decided to get some attention again. Hey assholes, I'm talking here. How was I supposed to know that my childhood friend might have hots for me? Naruto asked, ignoring him completely. I mean, it had been so long that I had long ago stopped of thinking her as a girl. Ichigo and Chad walked past the bully like he was invincible. That friend of yours, is she hot? Naruto shrugged. I don't know. I mean, I've always thought of her as a best friend. I guess she is okay. He shrugged again. Of course any men and most women, who knew Rangaku, would either beat him up or pass that as a joke. There was no way anyone would believe that Naruto thought her as an okay. But that was true. He had never really seen Rangaku even though she was right in front of him. When most people saw Big Blonde and her flirtatious moves, Naruto only saw that same annoying little girl who had once invited his bedroom out of nowhere and started making demands. The bully had enough and decided to charge at Ichigo. We're gonna settle this once and for all. He yelled a war cry which changed into a scream of pain when Ichigo punched him hard into the face. It seems that we can't go on without taking out these guys. Chad said, slowly raising his fists. We would prefer if you would just stand aside and let us pass. Not happening. One goon taking place of the first one yelled. We're going beat you guys down and claim the title of the strongest with that. Yaha. Heads up. Ichigo yelled to Naruto, who was still going on about his love life. I mean, she is beautiful, smart woman and she smiles like a sun when that happens, but she is also paranoid and overly jealous. Next thing they knew, they were outside, in the middle of a front gate, surrounded by goons. But she has always been a friend. Well, I have of course thought about the chance of us being an item. I mean, I had my first fantasies about her. But then there was my crush to Sakura. Will you shut up? Ichigo yelled suddenly. I know you have women problems, but can't you see that we're in the middle of something here? Naruto blinked and looked around. First thing he knew, a complete stranger came and offered him his hand. Kojima Mizuhiro. Nice to meet you. Naruto blinked again before starting to smile. Of course. Nice to meet you too. I'm Naruto. Urahara Naruto. My dad owns a little candy shop downtown. Kurosaki Ichigo. Ichigo stepped forward. And the big guy is Yasutora Sato. We call him Chad. Chad nodded politely. That's Asano Keigo. Mizuhiro pointed at his currently stumped-on friend who kept screaming for help. He's a much better friend than I am and even smart even though he doesn't study much. Naruto whistled while Ichigo looked impressed. You're something else, he said. What? I've never heard anyone complimenting a friend to a total stranger like that before. He threw off his jacket. Mizuhiro saw how Chad did the same while Naruto pulled out his fan. Mizuhiro, are you good with excuses? As a matter of a fact, yes I am. Good. Cause we're gonna need one pretty quick. Ichigo smirked as they all picked their targets. We're going need an excuse of why we're not in the class on time. They charged ahead. And that was how the strongest trio came to Karakura High and met Mizuhiro and Keigo. Meanwhile, in Soul Society. You think that would work? Aizen asked quietly from the dark figure. His room was filled dim, candlelight. No, even if we were able to draw him out, he would only disappear again. The figure leaned further away from the candlelight. Would he truly try to hide that into his own son's soul? I doubt it. The figure turned around. White Haori was visible for a moment. I don't think he would dare to do such thing for him. Not when he clearly knows the wrath of his mother. So, we just have to wait for another chance. Aizen said calmly. He heard how Sword was sheeted. You still don't trust me? Of course I do. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. The figure opened the door and walked out. It's just a procedure to make sure you stay honest. Dinner. A small hollow appeared from the sky, attacking a small soul that was running away. Get back here, dinner. They passed living people who ignored them completely. Even when the huge, dog-like hollow knocked people and stands out of its way, no one even bothered to yell at it. And of course they wouldn't, it was invisible. And so was the soul in need. A lone Shinigami chased them both by jumping on the rooftops. Lately, more and more hollows were appearing in this town and higher-ups had cut down the territory. Usually, it would take about 7 Shinigamis to protect a place big as Tokyo. That was over 1 million humans per Shinigami to watch over. And Tokyo, with the exception of Karakura Town, was ranked as hostile area in human world. Gotei 13 ranked the areas according the amount of hollows usually appeared there. Ranks were dead, quiet, active, hostile, dangerous, possessed, frontier, ground zero. Karakura Town itself had to be given its own Shinigami just recently when it was raised from active to hostile to dangerous. Every dangerous area had their own Shinigami, whatever the size. As far as this lone Shinigami knew, there hadn't been any frontier cases around here since the last World War. Ground Zero could be only found in Hueco Mundo. Usually, place like Karakura Town would be ranked either active or hostile considering its size, death rate, population and general happiness. Happier or more content they are as they die, less likely they are to turn into Jibaku Soul an earthbound soul, and being less likely eaten by hollows or turned into one themselves. And people in Karakura Town, by official Shinigami guidebook, were as content as in any other district in Tokyo or anywhere else in Japan. Still, somehow, hollows found themselves here more often than not. And they were more powerful after another. This lone Shinigami who threw a Kido attack in the back of the chasing hollow, to get its attention to himself, pulled his Zanpakuto and cut it down. After that, he gave the soul its burial and started to make his way back to his post, through the crowd. It was afternoon and crowded as the Shinigami made his way around people, trying not to cast any more unwanted attention than he necessarily had to. As he walked, he passed a group of high school students, but none of them were even looking at him because they were helping their friend who was coughing madly, down in the street. It reminded him from a person he had known long ago in the academy. It actually had been this town where this Shinigami had lost his friend. Man had been sent to his first real-world mission and never came back. Shinigami didn't spare a second glance at the students who were gathered around their friend. Lives of the living were not to be interfered with. No matter how awful they would seem. Shinigami sighed sadly and moved forward. Naruto, are you okay? Ichigo yelled alarmed. They had a normal day in school. Naruto scored high in the test again. Mizuhiro had been flirting with their teacher, Keigo running like a headless chicken. They had beaten some punks who had picked a fight with them and now they were heading home when suddenly, Naruto had a seizure of some sort and collapsed, coughing madly. Why yeah. Naruto swept his face into his sleeve while glancing over his shoulder quickly. Just a little cold. Nothing serious. Are you kidding? You collapsed on the street. I should get you checked at my dad's at least. Okay. Naruto didn't have anything to say when both Ichigo and Chad grabbed him by his shoulders and dragged him away, letting Keigo carry his bag while Mizuhiro followed. While being carried, Naruto glanced over his shoulder one more time and sighed inwardly. That was a close one. I don't want to take advantage of my friends, but I can't risk being found out by Gote 13. He coughed again, this time for real. His fake coughing had irritated his throat very badly and it tried to relieve itself. Of course, it served as a perfect cover-up. But it was a surprise to find Choji here. Last I heard, he was a foot soldier in 6th Squad. I wonder how things are going back there. Here we are Naruto, Kurosaki Clinic. Ichigo interrupted his thoughts and opened the door. Old man, you have a patient. So this is your home. Naruto studied the place as he was still being carried around. Why haven't you brought me here earlier? Go. A man jumped out of nowhere and kicked Ichigo into his face. Because he was still carrying Naruto around, he was dragged down too, and because Chad was also carrying him, so he lost his balance and tripped. And because Keigo and Mizuhiro were behind them, they were crashed underneath. Kurosaki Isshin watched the big pile of human arms and legs right in front him. Ha 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 ha. He laughed. How naive Ichigo. You're still no match for me. Now, what did you say just now? Naruto twitched painfully and whispered. Never mind. Your dad is pretty crazy. I told you. Ichigo answered with the same voice. But my dad still triumphs. Blonde boy said slowly before blackening out. Naruto woke up when something was being stuck down to his throat. Nothing too obvious wrong with him. Isshin said after a while of examination. Naruto cracked his eyes open and saw everyone standing right in front of him. Man with a doctor coat had his back turned to him. Has he been exerting himself a lot lately? No, not that we noticed. Ichigo shook his head. I mean, we had our fights with those punks, but other than that, nothing I can't remember. What he usually does when he's not with you, then? Isshin asked. Everyone looked back and forth between each other. Arcade, Ichigo suggested. I always thought he did some serious studying at home. Chad said, who even after all this time, refused to accept that someone could score so well with no real work. I saw him once with this high school girl, carrying her shopping. Mizuhiro thought out loud. Date? Everyone asked together. Nah, I don't think so. He shook his head. As I passed them, there was no romance there. It was like they were doing chores. Or rather, he was doing all the work while she was reading some erotic books. What? Keigo jumped up. Naruto is dating a woman like that. No, he's not. Mizuhiro just said that. Ichigo smacked him into head. Well, a relationship with a pervert like that would explain. Isshin said out loud. Explain what? Ichigo asked. Those bruises, cuts and healing bones all over his body. He explained. So either he is into S&M, is abused by his family frequently. Has he said anything to you? There was a silence. They didn't believe that Naruto was into S&M or abused by anyone. But there was no way of knowing, was there? They had been friends almost 6 months now and they couldn't know better. I train. Naruto's voice came from the door. I practice kendo and iaido regularly with my club. What? Keigo yelled. You said that you didn't belong to any club when I asked you to join in our school's team. Naruto, who was buttoning his shirt, walked to the hallway. Everyone could see light bruising over stomach until his shirt covered it. Correction, your sister, who freaks me out by the way, was holding you by your neck while you tried to exhale sounds long enough to be confused as words. And you still didn't give in. My sister won't give up until you decide to join our team. Well, my club is where I train. We get a little rough from time to time. Diaresis. Rough. Ichigo looked at him. You look like you were beaten to the ground. Well, Lisa gets easily excited when I promise to buy her a new book. Lisa. That high school girl? Mizuhiro asked. Naruto snorted. Yeah, right. She's just a middle-aged woman with some weird fetishes. In Vizard Hideout, Lisa sneezed loudly. Bless ya, Hirako muttered tiredly. Then he glanced at her. What? I don't know. Lisa stood up and looked up to the entrance. I suddenly have real urge to hit Naruto. What's her number? Mizuhiro pulled out a small notebook. Trust me, man, you wouldn't survive 2 minutes in the same room. Naruto raised his hands. This one time, she kept asking me to do this thing she had read in her books. I don't know what the thing really was, but it required animal costumes, rope, and lots of latex. Lisa sneezed again. Are you coming down to something? Hiyori asked, looking at her. 'Cause if you are, get away from me. I don't want to be sick on my date. First of all, you don't need to keep up the pretense. We know you don't have a boyfriend. And secondly, I don't know why, but I have a sudden urge to maim Naruto. Keigo felt shivers going down his spine, but nobody even noticed this. So you're okay. Okay as I can be. Trust me. Naruto smiled his assuring smile. But anyway, we're at Ichigo's. Shouldn't we, do something? They spent rest of the day playing games in Ichigo's room. Naruto was his usual happy-go-lucky self, but others thought it was a little forced. Now remember, you need to take it easy for couple of days. Ishin told him when they were leaving. You might not feel it, but your body starts to feel the effect of your training. If you keep this up, you might get seriously injured. Don't worry. Naruto smiled and waved his hand. I can take it. What are you training for anyway? Ichigo asked. Some tournament coming or what? You could say that. Naruto shrugged. If Hiyori promising to gut you like a fish if you didn't get a lot stronger a lot faster could be considered a tournament. Anyway, thank you for your concern, but I will be okay. He walked away, stretching his arms. One by one, his friends separated from the group towards their own homes until Naruto was alone walking in the sunset. It had been a hard day. People were starting to suspect things. He really should start looking after himself. Hello. A soul of an old man started making faces front of him. You idiot. Here I am. Look at this. Stupid. 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 A vein popped in Naruto's forehead. Enough already. He screamed. Soul jumped back in shock. Geez boy, I almost got a heart attack. Then the soul laughed. I already got one. If I hadn't known, I would have said that this guy could see me. I can see you, you old geezer. Naruto snapped angrily at it, causing it to flinch in shock. You can see me. Is that even possible? Why don't you think that while you pass on? But I don't want to go yet. I still have so many things I could do like this. Man danced around with a perverted glee in his eyes. Naruto sighed. Fine, if you don't, but don't come running to me when a hollow comes in. A sudden burst of Ryutsu right behind Naruto forced him to jump forward and grab the old soul with him. And not a moment too soon, because the place where he had been standing was caused to rubble the moment he lifted his feet. He faced the hollow. It was nothing. He wouldn't even have to pull his Zanpakuto. Just a simple Kido attack would send it back to its doom. He was about to raise his palm. Ever since his transformation, his Kido control had improved substantially. He wasn't anywhere near as the other vice captains, nor would he ever be. Kazuki had said that he just wasn't Kido type, but he could still do some pretty bad damage if he wanted. So a food can jump. Hollow yelled and licked its teeth. Let's see if you can dodge this. Naruto smirked and raised his hand. Hado number 4. Baya. He stopped himself. He didn't feel anything, any Ryutsu going through him. Damn Gigai. He gulped and evaded another attack. It was all because of his Gigai. It was designed to cut off any sign of Ryutsu. That also meant that he couldn't use his Zanpakuto, Hollow Mask, or even simplest Kido. But would I get attacked by a hollow? He had asked, but his father had done the exact thing he had expected. Ooh, look at that. He had pointed at something right behind Naruto's back. He had turned around to see what he meant. He couldn't really tell what he meant, so he turned back, asked him what when he realized that his father was gone. Every time, he had screamed frustrated and completely forgotten his question. So just he spoke to the soul that was withering behind him. I blame you for this. The old geezer couldn't get a chance to reply when Hollow attacked again. It seemed to get irritated by their jumping around. This is bad. Do something, boy. Save me. Geezer whimpered behind his back. What you want me to do? Naruto demanded angrily. I can't use my Zanpakuto without getting out of this Gigai, and if I do, my dad will be in danger. I can't do it. But, die. Hollow attacked. But instead Naruto, for jumping away again, he blocked it, with his own body. He coughed up a lot of blood but didn't move away. Giving up? Are you? Human who is able to see me, never ate one of those before. It licked its lips. Get away from here, geezer. Naruto grabbed Hollow's huge arm and locked it into his place. Hold it. Soul didn't think twice. It ran away fast as it could. You sacrificed yourself for the sake of that thing. Do you think I care about that? I want to eat you. Eat me, Naruto whispered. Who do you think you're talking to? Hollow punched him into face and sent him flying towards a wall. Die. It kept punching. I'm gonna die. Naruto thought while he was being beaten. For real this time. I can't use anything. I'm just a human who is getting beaten by a hollow. A jillion to that. Is that really all there is to it? A memory whispered. What do you think is a Shinigami? A person who carries a Zanpakuto. Uses Kido. Well, duh. Oh, and kicks some hollow's ass. Naruto smirked excited. Jiraiya shook his head. Those things don't matter. When that hollow attacked you last week, you couldn't do anything back then either. You couldn't use your Shikai, you couldn't use Kido even though you tried couple of times, yet you survived. Why is that? Naruto thought for a moment. I refuse to be defeated before I become the captain commander. That's my dream, you know. Yes, I know already. Jiraiya sighed. Give that up for 1 second when I'm trying to teach you. Arrow Taiko. Stop calling me that. I'm a captain of the 3rd squad and you're just a measly recruit of the 4th. You have to treat me with respect. Arrow Taiko. Naruto saluted him firmly. Jiraiya sighed. Back to the topic. You know what? Forget it. It's just a waste of time. You couldn't become anything. You can hardly use your Zanpakuto. He stood up and started walking away. I have to get back to my work. You know something we real Shinigamis do. Hey. Naruto jumped up angrily. I don't care even if you don't help me. I've been told all my life what I can't be a Shinigami because of my health. I can't graduate because I can't even use Kido. I can't summon my Zanpakuto because I'm such a loser. Well, guess what? They didn't stop me and so won't you. I'm still a Shinigami, I graduated the academy and I have my Shikai. So go ahead, go to your stinking squad, you perverted captain who can't get it up. I will be a captain commander, and when I will kick your ass back in Fort Sarite just out of amusement. Feel free to vent to the woods all you want after I'm gone. Go to hell. I don't care what you say. I'm not giving up. I give you my word. And I never go back on my word. He pointed his finger on Jiraiya's back. He stopped and turned around. We'll see about that. He smirked and pulled his own Zanpakuto. Pull. Naruto was just able to block Jiraiya's attack but was sent flying backwards by sheer force. The attack had almost knocked him out. His body was aching. He felt another seizure coming up. He forced himself up. His feet felt like they would fail him any minute. He could taste blood. Jiraiya appeared right front of him and kicked his Zanpakuto away. Fuin. He used a special Kido attack he had created himself back in the day. Jiraiya was accomplished in Fudo attacks, sealing attacks, and had created numerous new ones himself. His skills with Kido was probably the lowest among the captains, Keppenchi excluded, but his skills to form barriers, seal enemies, and their powers were rivaled by only the captain of Kido Coppers. With a simple poke of his finger, he had sealed every last bit of Naruto's Ryutsu away. Then he kicked him again, sending him flying high and far. What are you going to do now? He asked as Naruto finally stopped moving. His body was broken, he could feel his life slipping away. When there was no answer to fill the silence, Jiraiya sighed and sheathed his sword. Just as I suspected, just venting. Hold you just a minute. Pained voice whispered. Jiraiya turned around, his eyes widening from the shock. Naruto was standing. I gave you my word, pant. I would be a cap ppt ain com a man commander one day. Don't go back on it. His resolve never gave up, but his body wasn't just as lucky. He fell unconscious before he even started falling down. Jiraiya appeared right next to him and grabbed him before he hit the ground. That's right, Naruto. He smiled proudly to the boy who was down for the count. It doesn't matter how many spells you know or about your Zanpakuto. The most important thing you need is guts. There was only silence. Are you there? Jiraiya asked. Seriously, if you're just faking it, it's not funny. He gulped. Wow. Tsunade is going to kill me. Die. Human. Hollow opened its mouth. Dinner. And flung forward, but suddenly, Naruto raised his hand and punched it into head. Guts. Naruto whispered. Do you think you're talking to? He leaned to the wall. I'm Senju Urahara Naruto. Gote 13, 3rd Vice Captain. I'm not going down by just a lowly hollow. I'm going to go down in some big-ass heroic fight. He pushed the hollow backwards when suddenly he turned around and used a jujutsu and threw him over his back, slamming it painfully to the ground. While the hollow was withering in pain on the ground, Naruto slammed his heel into its face. Take that. Then he quickly took a piece of concrete that had fallen from the wall he had been slammed just moments before. He used it as a weapon when he beat the hollow's mask time after time until he could feel it breaking. He quickly jumped up and rushed towards a pile of garbage where he saw a metal pipe sticking out. He took it just in time to saw the hollow trying to stumble away. You're not going anywhere. He yelled and tried to run after it, but his ankle must have been broken because he could feel the sharp pain torturing him and fell down. The hollow took this chance and run away. That's right. Run away. And tell all your friends that I'm here. Great Naruto-sama is here, so everyone better watch out. Hollow turned couple corners and sighed relieved. He had managed to loose that crazy guy. I knew you were here somewhere. Shoji sighed, and before it noticed, Hollow was in half. This place is really dangerous. This one is second today. Good thing that I get a transfer soon. Kazuki was fanning himself while waiting for his son coming back. Moonlight was glowing. It was way past his son's usual time already and he was getting little anxious. New Shinigami's coming and going this town all the time, there was no telling what might happen. But then again, he would definitely feel his son's Ryutsu if anything dangerous was going on. Then slowly, he heard someone slowly making its way towards the shop. Slowly Naruto came into view looking like he had just tried to beat a Manos with just his bare fists. He didn't say much, just limped inside. So, how was your day? Kazuki asked politely. Naruto answered by throwing his bag into his face. Uzumaki-san, Ochi-sensei asked quietly as he announced student's name the next morning. Here, Naruto's voice answered. Of course, no one had any idea of telling if it was really him because of all the bandages around him. What happened to you? There was a moment of silence. Naruto could feel everyone watching at him. I'm cosplaying as the mummy man from Dragon Ball episode 72. You like it? Yes, well, carry on then. Ochi Misato mumbled. Whatever lame excuses she had been expecting, this was not one of them. As the lunch started, all his friends surrounded Naruto immediately. What the hell happened to you? Ichigo demanded loudly. Naruto slowly turned his head. I already told you. Did something happen after you left? Chad asked. Were you attacked by some gang? What? No. Naruto waved his hand dismissively. I'm okay. Let's go have lunch. He avoided all the questions all day. So you got your ass handed to you by a hollow? Shinji asked while she was looking down to him. It had been his turn to spar with him, but Naruto was not in any condition to fight. So they did the next best thing. Played poker. Shut it already. Naruto snapped angrily. Or I will stick a Sero down your throat. Ha, you wish you could do it. Shinji snickered. I'm not love. Hey. Naruto crumbled. Anyway, where's Hiyori? I thought she would be here. Everyone tensed. She's with her boyfriend. She's still going on about that. Everyone slumped depressed. She dragged us up to meet him. Rose whispered. He was real. A high school student. Naruto blinked. You're not pulling my leg just for fun of it. Everyone's glares were an answer enough. So, with the exception of this boyfriend, and Hiriko's regular visits to a whorehouse, no action on this frontier, huh? Don't talk like you had so much going on either. Lisa glared at him. Don't say that. Kensai screamed, but it was too late. What you mean I don't have a girlfriend? Yes, we had very cold feelings right before I left here, but that doesn't mean we. Everyone was now glaring at Lisa, who actually looked ashamed of herself. I hope you're happy now. Kensai whispered. Now nothing will silence him. I mean, how am I supposed to know that she felt threatened by my best friend? You know how it is. Alright, today I want you to attack me with all you got and I will gauge your abilities. Kazuki pulled out his Benihime. When he was ready for the attack, he noticed the tension around his son. Is something wrong, son? Just a little uneasy feeling about all this. Naruto smiled nervously. Last time you pulled that on me, I went through a hell of lot of pain and almost ended up dying. Kazuki placed his sword on his shoulder and smiled sadly. I'm sorry about that, Naruto. It was just something that had to be done. There was a moment of silence where they watched into each other's eyes. Ever since you became a wizard, I decided to leave your training in Hiriko-san's and his friends' capable hands, knowing that I can't really teach you anything you wouldn't learn from them better. So today, I want to see how far you've come in these moths. You can use anything you have. Hollow Mask, Zanpakuto, Kido, Scratch and Bite if you need to. He clapped his hat. If you can knock this over, I will show you few tricks of my own. Training with my own dad. Naruto smiled widely and lowered his stance, took hold of Kina's scabbard with one hand and its handle with the other. Here I come. He leapt forward and pulled the katana out, aiming at his father's head. Kazuki dodged it easily and flung his blade from the opposite side. You're open. Suddenly the wakizashi jumped out of its scabbard, almost slashing him into half. He leapt backwards just to witness Naruto placing it back and taking hold of his katana with both hands. That was a pretty good block. Thanks. Naruto smiled and sheathed his sword. I've been working with that one. Iaido again. Have you learned any new tricks past these months? Kazuki asked. Why don't you come over here and find out? Naruto smirked. Well, I'm not that accomplished in Iaido myself, but I can do something. Urahara lowered his stance and smirked. For a moment, it was like mirror image of each other. Only few centuries between them. Let's go. They yelled and moved forward. It's loud down there. Ururu whispered quietly. She, Jinta and Tessai were upstairs, waiting. I wonder how they are doing. I hope manager kicks that guy's ass. Jinta said loudly as another shock wave surged through floor. Jinta dono. Please. Tessai whispered. Then suddenly, came very quiet. Do you think they killed each other? Jinta whispered. The secret door flung open and very battle-weary Kazuki jumped up, holding his unconscious son in his arms. Hello, everyone. He greeted everyone. How did it go, owner? Tessai rushed to take Naruto from him and checked him for wounds. I'm pooped. Kazuki crashed on ground. He took his hat to his hands. Luckily I didn't have my good hat. The thing he was holding in his hands was now ruined. It had a huge hole in the middle. That boy, he smiled to Naruto, has come very far, but he still has long way to go. Then he crashed backwards and sighed. Look after the shop for the day. I will take a day off. Few weeks later, Naruto was doing some late night shopping. All his friends were busy with their own things. A hollow's quiet scream filled the air. They keep coming more every week. Suddenly, a familiar Ryutsu spiked somewhere near. She's here, he whispered as he looked around. Kuchiki, Rukia, here. No, something is wrong now. Ichigo. He abandoned his shopping and run through streets. He pushed trash cans aside, kicked people and ignored a police officer who tried to arrest him. He made it to Kurosaki residence to witness something unbelievable. There was Kuchiki Rukia, lying against a light pole, wounded, holding her Zanpakuto against his friend's chest. Gimme the sword, Shinigami. Ichigo smirked. It's not Shinigami. Rukia answered as Ichigo pointed her sword towards his own chest. It's Kuchiki Rukia. I'm Kurosaki Ichigo. Get a room you two. Naruto whispered awkwardly as he backed away into hiding. Hollow kept crawling closer. Then something happened. Ichigo released a massive amount of Ryutsu and transformed into Ichigo as a Shinigami. Then he noticed Ichigo's Zanpakuto as he slayed the Hollow. It's not the size. It's how you use it. The fight was soon over and Naruto walked away. There was nothing he could do now. Just as he turned around, the Hollow's Ryutsu disappeared. When he reached home, he found his father waiting for him. You saw it, didn't you? Yeah. Naruto nodded and sat next to him on the porch. Rukia-chan is in big trouble now. Giving one's powers to human is a great fence against the laws of Seraite. What will happen to her now? Kazuki smirked. I sold her a very special Gigai just now. She is resting inside. Wait. What? She's here. How? When? Ooh. Naruto. Kazuki waved his fan dismissively. If you had been a little more observant, you might have noticed that I was standing behind you all the time. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. You're pulling my leg. Get a room you two. Kazuki repeated his words. How you knew where I was? You didn't come home in time, so I thought that something was going on, and then I noticed this weird Ryutsu hanging around. Kazuki stood up. I quickly run to you fast as I could. We reached the scene together. Who? Naruto nodded quietly. I'm going to the clubhouse for the night. He stood up. Remember to take care of her, right? She's my Aniki's legacy and very important to me. Understand? Better get a move on. Can't be seen here or it will raise unnecessary questions. That's unfortunate but true. Kazuki smiled. See you tomorrow. He walked inside. I'm sorry Naruto, but she is my only chance to hide that from Aizen forever. I wish there was another way. I'm sorry.